Hello everyone, my name is Felicity Cawley and I'm here with my colleagues Vanessa and Kristin to talk about true collaboration, navigating collective leadership, coordination and professional development of staff in an undergraduate team taught honours course. Before we talk about our approach to team teaching, I wanted to give you a little bit of context about the course which we team taught on. So our course was called Motherhood and Maternity in 20th Century Britain. This was an honours course based in economic and social history, which is situated in the Division of Political and International Studies in the School of Social Sciences. This course was a course that examined the changes and developments, understandings and experiences of motherhood and maternity in 20th century Britain. The course ran for the first time in academic session 2023-2024, and it ran at full capacity with 40 students from ESH, our home subject, but also included students from other areas like history based in the College of Arts. And as is the focus of today's conversation, this course was co-convened by myself, Vanessa and Kristin. So we really wanted to start this conversation by talking about the motivations that I had as lead course convener, which I'll touch on in a second, to approach this as a team taught course. So at a fairly early career stage for me, I was offered the opportunity to develop an honours course for our undergraduate programme in economic and social history. I was very aware this was an important milestone for me as an early career member of staff and as an LTS scholar. When I was given this opportunity, I wanted to think about what I wanted to talk about in this research-led honours course. And I hit upon this kind of focus of my research of experiences of motherhood and maternity. But when I looked at the university's regulations and advice and strategies around learning and teaching, I got really bogged down this idea of research-led teaching and what this meant. And what I started to realise was this meant engaging with the most recent and up-to-date research that was actually happening around me in my own subject area with my colleagues. But I really wanted to make sure that my approach to using this research-led teaching, the most up-to-date research that was happening, wasn't extractive. And I really wanted to engage my colleagues in a collaborative teaching environment. But in doing so, I faced questions around what would leadership look like within this phase when I was at a more advanced career stage than my colleagues. Within the university structures, I was at a higher grade level than my colleagues. And what would this mean about having this collaboration when we're at different grade levels, when we have different responsibilities, and when we have different opportunities to develop at this stage? So I really thought about how could we approach this as a true collaborative experience.
So we're going to think about some of these practical approaches then to collaborative teaching. And this is the idea of what we actually did and how we implemented this strategy. So team teaching is not a new phenomenon. Obviously, we see this within the university, we see this within some of our pre-honours teaching, for example, but often it consists of things like guest lectures and the way that we kind of deliver our lectures individually in different sessions. What we wanted to do was something a little bit unique here. And as a result, we brought in working together within our lectures. This is where we might divide certain parts of our times as we were presenting, but also where we might share some of the dialogue together. We might think about how as historians we have different perspectives, or we come at history from different perspectives as well, and how we discuss this in the classroom. We also thought how this fit within constructing and designing some of our seminar sessions and some of our active learning approaches as well. But to do this, we thought about the kind of collaborative overview of the course. So we sat down from the beginning and actually planned this together. So every stage of this was planned and developed from the Moodle, from the way it was going to be set out, from the topics that we looked at each week. And this was to ensure that we had a kind of iterative and meaningful learning environment for our students, and also that it kind of meshed together and worked together as topic overviews. Involved in this, though, were regular meetings that we had to have. Sometimes this was every 2 weeks, sometimes it was every week, sometimes it was even more frequent. And that often depended on what we were teaching that week and also maybe our assessment deadlines as well. One of the things that we wanted to do within our approaches to this and our practical approaches to this is to provide consistency for our students and consistency across the teaching team. And a way that we did this was by looking at the different kind of formatting that we had. So did we have similar accessible slides that we would use every week? Did we have similar types of techniques in the class? Did we set out clear expectations together and individually? These are really important things that we had fed throughout the course and made it consistent for our students. And this also led into how we designed and how we graded our assessments as well. So we came together and we put these together in terms of like the designing impact. We picked out the questions together, we picked out sources together, and we also shared responsibilities of things like grading as a result. And finally, overall, we were thinking about how we had a balanced approach to our support and our research-led expertise and our shared knowledge within this team. So this is things like, you know, knowing that somebody in the group had a very specific expertise in a topic, letting them take the lead that week, but also sharing some of our collective ideas around the topics as well each week and feeding that into our classes. But now we also then want to think about what this actually meant and how it translated to our students and also the team.
So when we were reflecting on the course and reflecting on the themes of this conference, we considered the fact that in the context of an increasing student body and an increasingly diversifying student body, in the context of increasing class sizes, team teaching often is seen as an efficient means of reducing workload capacities across institutions. If there's two people on it, they split the workloads, and there is a less amount of pressure on a single individual to convene an important course. What we would like to suggest is that truly pedagogically sound collaborative teaching is somewhat distinctive and actually isn't as time efficient as previous understandings and iterations of it might appear. You have to spend a lot of time, particularly at the start of the teaching journey, discussing and identifying the individual boundaries of your collaborators, the individual expectations of your collaborators, and working together to create a cohesive course. So it might not be a time saver, but it is definitely a mechanism through which you can have a smoother teaching experience when the semester eventually arrives. Something else that I think we did that was really beneficial was that we were very explicit from the outset about one, our career stage, which doesn't always align with your level of experience, but also is a good way of gauging levels of responsibility within the institution, and also the development we wanted to gain from this course. As Dr. Cawley said at the start of this presentation, we were at different career stages, we had different levels of experience. So being transparent about what we wanted to be able to demonstrate in terms of our pedagogy through this course allowed for us to set out those expectations and boundaries and provide scaffolding opportunities for one another. The students saw this as distinctive to other team taught teaching they had experienced in the past. In the context of economic and social history, team taught teaching happens at pre-honours level, but they very much saw that our honours course operated in a different way. They really did see us as a team, they saw us as a cohesive unit, and benefited from that experience as demonstrated in their AVASIS surveys. Ultimately, we also benefited from it as well. We got to say from the start what we wanted to be able to do and prove, and it ultimately could be reflected in other external indicators, things like our performance development review, and ultimately, for two of us, our promotion, which we successfully achieved in August. So to conclude, collaborative teaching is very pedagogically sound, as well as a great way to demonstrate research expertise. It is also potentially enriching for everyone involved, including the students, but that has to be scaffolded, and it has to be transparent in terms of different grade levels and expectations of job roles. We would like to suggest that collaborative teaching should be proactive rather than a reaction to external factors, although that's not always the reality of working in academia. So when it is reactive, it's about making the most out of the situation and using the capacity that the collaborators have to develop something that is truly meaningful. Finally, one of the things we really are keen to do moving forward is to continue developing these collaborative avenues of teaching with student co-creation, potentially through a learning and teaching development project, but ultimately continuing this process and seeing what more we can learn from collaborative teaching moving forward. Thank you very much for listening.